The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining our April Digital Workplace Roundtable. I'll be your co-host. My name is Vicky Reynoso. I am a customer engagement specialist in the marketing team here at Coveo, and I'm really excited to be here as part of today's roundtable. I'm also very pleased to introduce today's co-hosts, Christine Egley and Christine Nadeau. Christine Egley is my co-host and a customer success manager at Coveo. Excuse me. Joining today also is Christine Nadeau, a customer success manager as well. Now, before we begin, I have a few housekeeping items to cover. First, everyone can participate by unmuting their speakers or raising their virtual hand or by asking questions in the chatter section. Do not hesitate to use them. I'll be monitoring your questions and interactions. Today's roundtable is being recorded and you will receive the presentation by email next week. Finally, there will be a brief survey at the end of the session. So please help us improve by providing your feedback on the roundtable topics, content, and overall experience. For those of you just joining us, welcome to our first Digital Workplace Roundtable. Now let's get started. Christine, the mic is all yours.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for taking time to join us on a Friday afternoon. I realize your time is valuable, so thank you. And what we're going to do today is we're going to, I'll just frame it a little bit at the beginning here, and then we will spend most of our time talking about some discussion questions. So that's the bulk of what we're going to do. And then Vicki will wrap us up at the end. So this session is really for you. We have some prepared questions to start the discussion, but we can certainly go off script, and I encourage you to share your questions, your experiences with the group. If you have found something that is working well for you, please don't be shy, share it with the group, and likewise, this is the place to also share the most stubborn challenges that you're facing. You're probably not alone in those challenges. So to kick us off, the first question, of course, is about COVID-19. And so I'd really love to hear what are your biggest challenges that you're facing right now? All right, well, we'll start out, and I'll ask Christine if you've experienced, seeing how we've experienced the challenges and with that at Coveo and with your customers.
Hi, Christine Egley. Thank you so much. And it's interesting. On the one hand, I see what the customers are going through, and then on the second hand, I also see what we are going through ourselves as an organization. And some of the main touch points that I've seen being hit on tend to cover the areas of effective two-way communication, technology and tools as we've moved into a virtual workforce, questions around well-being and minimizing the sense of social isolation amongst our colleagues. And lastly, what I've really noticed is about our leadership, how they've really pulled together, kept us well informed as a team, and certainly we're trying to do that with our clients as well. And I would invite anybody on the call to expand on that. Are there any other areas or examples that you would love to share about your experience?
Thanks, Christine.
There's Fatty who share onboarding staff who start today. Fatty, you're muted if you want to jump in and elaborate.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Good to talk to you. It's certainly, I'm sure others are in the same situation where the first day that we all decided to work from home was the first day that we had a new hire, and we've had new hires every Monday since we started with the work at home. So part of our challenge really is the concept of shadowing. We're used to being perhaps a little more casual about introducing new people. You know, you take them to lunch on the first day, they meet the team, get a cup of coffee, learn where everything is, and then start shadowing people. So figuring out the technologies for that shadowing.
And what have you been, pardon me, what have you been using?
So we've been using, we use GoToAssist for our remote support with clients. So we've been using that. We're using Skype, we're using Teams, GoToMeeting. Like many groups, we have a variety of different collaboration tools. So it depends on how we're trying to collaborate, how, which tool might be best for the situation, especially if you're trying to shadow someone in support. So you're trying to pick up what's happening on the phone call and connecting with the client and what it looks like, and learning the product.
Thanks for that, Patty. Anyone else?
Hi there, everyone. My name is Anna, and I work for Manulife. So we're a large global organization. So it's been kind of a journey for us in terms of the biggest challenge that we've faced. And week by week, it changes. The first week, it was the first week of work from home. The challenge was absolutely about getting people to seamlessly connect. Lots of people at our organization do work from home already, but a lot don't. So it was about getting people comfortable with working from home, tips and tricks, sort of technology-wise. That felt like it really was very important the first week. The second week, it started to become a little bit more about engagement. How do you keep 36,000 people engaged? And then this week, we've really noticed an uptick in people asking for resources to help with mental health issues, and certainly morale. And it's been a noticeable difference. So, and I don't know what next week will bring. For our organization, we were asked basically right off the bat to create essentially a microsite dedicated to all things COVID-19. So we are essentially built out a special section, pardon me, of our intranet that houses all of the policy-related documents and a lot of messages from leadership. Our leadership have really stepped up, so that's a big chunk of the section. And then we've also been publishing a ton of kind of supplementary content that's meant to try and keep people smiling and staying resilient and that kind of thing.
Thank you. That sounds great. Very important. I do think it's definitely a big opportunity for leadership and a lot of demands when leaders are also personally managing the same situation that their employees need their help with. Anyone else? All right, I think I'll move to the next slide, which is actually what we're doing at Coveo. Christine, would you like to speak to this?
At Coveo, there has been a lot of emphasis in terms of timely communication, and the communication has also been candid yet reassuring, and there's been a huge focus on being very solution oriented. So our Chief Executive Officer, Mr. Louis Tetu, actually put a call out to every single employee within the organization to brainstorm and come up with ideas. And actually this particular event, this roundtable, is a result of some of that brainstorming across the board from all of our employees. And in terms of very clear messaging, I think all of us are at Coveo feel quite assured in the sense of what do we need to do in this situation. So you can see the list here in terms of what our focus is during this very critical time. And what I would like to do at this point is invite the other participants in this call just to share your experience with regards to employee communication and some of your best practices, etc. Thank you.
So we have feedback from May, another of our colleagues, CSM colleague. She said, from Adobe, my perspective is from a knowledge angle, how employees are asking questions in enterprise social platforms and how to direct them back to the single source of truth.
Yes, I think that's really important. I found that this communication, this priority list here on the Coveo side was very helpful in making sure that we were all knowing what we needed to do. And I also appreciated that the communication, our CEO also mentioned that he was asking for suggestions. So how can we help? How can we help our customers? How can we help each other? We were all invited to share our ideas, and I know that there's been a ton of them. And like Christine said, this is one of the ideas that was followed up on.
Hi, this is Patty again.
Hey, Patty.
I thought I'd share some of what we've done here. Is our management formed a task force weeks before this became a practicing reality, so that there was a group from all business units, all different areas in the business units, as well as HR, legal, security, all of those concerned. In my location, we were somewhat fortunate in we had 2 major power outages last year. So we had already kind of been through the fire drill of working at home and making sure that people were set up, a much shorter period, but it was a little less of a fire drill to move people over. So we had a strong group directing everything, inviting us for information. And then we have an intranet where there's information coming out from all levels, including items including humor, which helps all of us to keep a good perspective, as well as some tips for being a remote employee, because we do have remote employees, and then there are others where it's a first-time experience. So I think the thing that has impressed me is a level of information, and as you said, candor, but comfortable candor, and regular communication, changes in meeting cadence, so that we're meeting just to talk about how we're doing and separating that from business meetings instead of blending the business meeting. I think that makes a difference.
It's a really great point. And sounds like I am so impressed that you had the task force ahead of time. That I'm sure that gave you a jump on the situation, so that when things started to get where you had to work remotely with a wider amount of your employee base, that I'm sure those few weeks made a huge difference. Anyone else want to talk about remote work?
I just want to maybe plant a couple of ideas for some of our participants. You know, when it comes to remote work, there have been some excellent points made about preparing those who do not work from home yet. And even with Coveo itself, when we identified that this was the direction the organization was going to go, our IT team in Montreal had to fulfill over 200 IT requests for equipment within a very, very short span of time. And then it became what Patty mentioned earlier, which was those who are not used to working from home, best practices surrounding that. And also the whole idea about working from home, that sense of trying to maintain connection and virtual community amongst our employees, also face-to-face interaction with our clients as well. Some of the reach out I've noticed with some of our employees in the more critical zone areas is there's been extra trying to ask them, what do they need? What do they want? Do we need to shift workload? Do we need to create a different communication cadence? So I just wanted to put that out there. In terms of transitioning your work from home employees, did you find there were certain tools or other items that you put into place that have been helpful to your team?
I'm just going to say, you know, patience, empathy, and humor, which are really not the tools, but many of our employees have families in unique situations. So some of them are homeschooling and working, some of them are daycare and working, some of them are caring for elders and working. So simply making sure that your employees know that the expectation is the work is going to get done, but it's not going to get done the way it got done 4 weeks ago. It's going to get done the way that you can get it done in your environment, and that level of support is important. It's easier for us to get done what we need to get done if we feel supported from our management chain.
Completely agree. What is the quote? It's a luxury to be understood or to feel understood. And so I like when I see the messages around, you realize you have many demands on your time, and if you need to adjust your schedule, work things out with other employees to manage the work in a more convenient way. I'm seeing a lot of flexibility there, which I think is extremely helpful.
We've at Manulife, we have had so we're on a regular cadence with leader messages coming kind of from the top, and none of those messages are written. They're all video messages, and they're very low production value. They are literally these guys sitting in, and women and men sitting in their basements, wherever it is. Some of them have absolutely ad hoc offices, you can tell, which is kind of hilarious. But you know, they're sending those in, and it's humanizing for them, but it also absolutely illustrates the point to people that, you know, we all have to kind of make do with what we've got right now. Maybe you don't have this beautiful, we expected our CEO to have this fabulous office, and it looks pretty, you know, no fuss, no muss. And I think that's really helpful for people to see, and it's supporting the point we're trying to make about, you know, let's all go easy on each other, cut each other some slack right now, because none of this is ideal, to put it lightly. So anyway, my point is that the low production value, regular cadence video messages have been hugely helpful, and by far the most, I'd say, popular content that we're creating right now.
That is such an excellent point. I love that. It is very humanizing, and I think it just shows that there's ways that we can make the best of this situation and pay attention to what's most important, which is the message and the humanity of our leaders and our employees. So I think that is fantastic. I would say likewise, in this meeting that we're in right now, if anybody is afraid to turn their mic on because they have background noise, we are not going to judge. So it's okay if you've got pets and kids and everything else going on. So please don't let that stop you. I can just share a little bit about what, from a Coveo standpoint, I was very impressed with our CIO and the team that is working on the communication and the planning, especially on the remote work part. So we have 3 times a week updates from our CIO, and just gives us the status. And also, initially they created this level 1, 2, 3, 4 because it seems like it was forever ago, but there was a time when we were not sure if we needed everybody to be working from home. And so this was a really good way that we could have clarity on exactly who needed to change and in what way. So I was, and I liked Christine's comment about the IT team having to set up everybody to work remotely. I talked to one of them, and he said they had just donated a bunch of unused monitors to a charity that had finally picked them up like the day before we needed to go, or maybe it was a day or two, but it was so funny because he was like, I need to find monitors for everybody, which is, but they made it happen. So sure, we're not the only ones. I think I'm going to move us to the next question. So there are some Coveo intranet customers, I think, in this session, or you certainly have an intranet with queries coming in from employees. I'm curious if any of you, and also you get direct questions and emails, etc. So what types of changes have you noticed in what your employees are looking for? What kind of content is needed?
Ours are looking for mental health resources, and they want them in a really easy to find place. And the other big issue that's huge right now is ergonomic setup. So people are asking all sorts of information about, like, can they go to the office and get their monitor, or ship their chair home, things like that. These are the big ones that have really peaked for us.
That makes sense. Anyone else notice some changes? Christine, what did you see with your customers in terms of changes in queries and requests?
That's a good question. You know, I'm going to echo a couple things, and yes to office ergonomics. Anything related to work from home, like setting up their system, setting up all their communications. Some inquiries around Concur or payroll inquiries, over and above, of course, the COVID-19 inquiries. And once again, wellness from the aspect of physical, mental, and emotional well-being.
Very important.
Hey,
Anyone
this is
else?
May here. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, hi May.
Hey, yeah, I'm not sure who that the last speaker was that mentioned the, the high priority for, or high priority searches, I should say, for ergonomics and mental health. But I guess my question to you or and anyone else is, as you're finding the top priority searches, are you guys taking action to automatically display that in either as a featured result or kind of have it on the homepage of the intranet to make it easier so that they don't necessarily have to search? I'm just curious to see what strategy you're kind of going with this new information.
That's a really good question. And it's something that was boggling us a little bit at first. And what we're doing is in some of our sections of this microsite, we have kind of like a running, almost like FAQs document, what people have been asking about. And so it's becoming like an encyclopedia because it's getting really long. So what we're doing, pulling out specific questions, for example, about, so you want to ship your desk home, here's our answer for that. And what we're doing is we're cross-promoting on the homepage of our intranet and driving it back to our microsite. So we're taking out these little nuggets that we know are appearing in search, that people are sending in to our mailbox with questions, and we're giving them prominence on the homepage. Because otherwise everything gets buried, right?
Yeah. And that's exactly, I was really hoping to hear that. I mean, just because I know that, I assume everyone on here or most people on the call might be familiar with that Coveo reporting that gives us that information of those search terms. We can narrow down, we can narrow down by the last month or the last week to understand what are our employees, in this case for internet, what are employees searching for, what's most important to them, what do they need? And then I'm really glad to hear that you guys are kind of using that and making it easier for them to access. So that's great.
I just wanted to layer another question out to the attendees. And, some of you are part of global organizations. Have you noticed sometimes there's different things trending in Asia versus Europe versus North America?
I'm finding that North America pretty much on the same page in terms of what people are talking about right now. And our colleagues in Asia are on such a different kind of curve with COVID, although unfortunately, obviously starting to spike again. So, it'll be, I guess, interesting to see they're almost like old hands. Like in our company, we've done some sessions where people either have, we had a podcast with some employees in Asia just to share their learnings, because people from North America were kind of keen to learn from people who had been through it before us. Yeah, but North America's been pretty much on the same page in terms of a lot of the questions.
I love that idea of the podcast from the employees that have already been through it. Great idea.
We had some benefit in our team because we have a group that's out in Washington. So they were working from home 2 weeks before the rest of us on the East Coast. And so when they were first going through that, we learned a lot from some of the questions that their employees were asking, some of the experiences they had, some of the way that they were dealing with it. So it gave us a little bit of advance.
Makes total sense. And this actually is perfect with our next question, which is learning from global teams, which I think we've pretty much covered already. So anyone else have a global team that you've learned from? Right, I think I'm going to move us to the next one. So this is something that Christine Naidu is going to speak to, because whenever I have a wellness question or need some information, she's my go-to person at Coveo. She is the wellness channel host for us all.
Thank you so much, Christine. And, you know, it speaks again to this whole aspect of the employee within the organization, you know, physical well-being, mental well-being, emotional well-being, and also recognizing that people are in different stages. Now, some of the attendees have already mentioned that people are in different stages of life. So if you have young kids versus a teenager versus elder care versus someone being solo, I certainly think that, you know, having a variety of content to address that is important. Some physical areas, I've seen requests from people about online fitness, whether it be yoga, kickboxing, whatever physical activity that's out there, you know, a lot of free online resources. And also some organizations as well are starting to cover online memberships with their benefits when in the past they hadn't. When it comes to mental aspect, I think some special attention to tools that can really help balance us mentally and emotionally. So this could be mindfulness-based stress reduction training. There are some phenomenal links out there, and they actually will not cost the organization anything. There's some great free resources available. Another thing that I've noticed is a lot of people inquiring about nutrition, and you know, families wanting ideas for quick and simple recipes because they're juggling workplace and home. So and also nutritious snacking. I don't know about you guys, but you know, unfortunately, Haagen-Dazs and Magnum ice cream have become my friends. So, you know, I'm trying to look at some healthy alternatives and, you know, looking for different recipes and ideas. Educational links for kids, people looking for ways to keep their kids busy as well. And, you know, once again, speaking to this idea of providing relevant, reputable links that provide a very balanced and honest approach and that are quite supportive. So I'm actually a fan of two particular links, and this may be something you're aware of already, but one is Thrive Global with Adriana Huffington. Phenomenal links that cover a wide range of the physical, mental, emotional balance that we want to maintain within our team. And also TED Talks. They created a virtual community, a TED Talk Hope community. And every single day, Monday to Friday, they feature a phenomenal speaker. And I'll pause here and I invite any of the attendees to share perhaps some of the wellness resources that are going out to your team. Thank you.
Thanks, Christine.
Christine, it's so, Anna again, sorry, I will stop talking after this.
No, it's good, it's good.
I just wanted to say that I love the links you mentioned, and as the like downer of the group, what we have found this week, it really flared up, is this whole issue of obtaining proper licenses to make sure before you share content. So this became an issue that we don't think about very often because we're generally sharing content within the organization that we've written or somehow produced by Manulife people, but it's really become a hot topic. So we had to involve legal this week to get some really clear guidelines on what can be shared among the organization.
That is so helpful to know.
Great point.
I think we can all go back and check out our practices and what the best practice is for making sure we're doing that correctly. Really great point. Yeah, in terms of resources and information, it's interesting. I looked at the queries from our internal intranet, and there's a whole COVID-19 tab added to it, which I'll show you in a minute. Actually, I think I've got it here. That we've added, and there's a whole channel for it. But the queries that I was looking at really didn't show a lot, not as much as I would have thought on COVID, et cetera. And Christine and I were talking about this and thinking, well, you know, I think maybe it's because we have updates 3 times a week, and there's links that are shared. We have the FAQ, and for some reason internally, we're not getting that many searches on it, which was a surprise. I will share.
Sorry, Christine, I just wanted to add on to what you've said. I'd be curious to hear with our attendees if they found that it's been similar, or has it been the opposite for you?
Good question. Anyone been looking at the searches or what people are looking for on your intranet?
big spike in HR policy things for us. So, you know, COVID's not in the title per se, but people are reminding themselves of, you know, for example, sick leave policies, that kind of thing.
Totally makes sense. Yes. Big deal. Anyone else? Okay. I wanted to share this with you as a example. I thought this was good. Also seeing what our leaders are talking about in terms of communicating with customers. So this is very useful because then I think the employees can get an idea of what we should be saying and doing, and it's just sort of a modeling, I think, that is very helpful. And this particular session is available today. I don't know if it's on now, but by end of day certainly will be available on our Coveo site. I'll put in a plug for that. One thing I was wondering is, you know, as everything has changed, and you all have employees that you're supporting, did you need to find, you know, did you find yourself working with teams that you never talked with that much before, or that you needed to reach out to support a effort that had just been put together, in our case, a SWAT team? I think Christine, you knew something about the SWAT teams at Coveo.
Yeah, it was a really interesting process because, you know, when you're facing a crisis like this, that's pretty much unprecedented. The ability to move and pivot quickly is essential to address not only internal issues, but also to serve our clients as well. So within Coveo, I've seen some SWAT teams come up, and they're loosely made of different individuals. So for example, part of what we're doing today is connected to the workplace intranet SWAT team that we've created. And one thing I'm curious about is within your own organization, have you noticed this happening? And if yes, which functional areas?
Yeah, we've got a SWAT team going, and there's obviously representation from communicators across our global operations, but we've also got facilities are hugely important right now. I'm just trying to think of what else. We've got our security, representation from our security team, very much connected to the technology teams from a couple of the different areas.
I'm curious about the facilities mentioned. I guess, is that for people who still need to go to the office, or can you say more about that?
We do have some people who are still in because they have kind of critical roles that require being in the office, unfortunately. But so there's some concern about those people, but there's also a lot of people who are very concerned about what's happening to the buildings while people are gone. It's so funny, the stuff that comes up. Anyway, so we've been updating people on cleaning protocols that are taking place. It's been a big question that we've seen. Yeah, and again, like we've also had a lot of people emailing in to say, because work from home started so abruptly, so people got a lot of emails for a while. People wanted to report food that they had left out. So being connected to facilities is actually quite helpful.
That's great.
Totally. I imagine there's probably some questions around people's plants as well too at their desk.
Yes, plants, big. That's a big one.
Goodness, yes. Anyone else want to talk about new responsibilities or opportunities to engage?
I think everything that was just shared is probably very familiar to most of us. An informal group that we have is our clients use our software and are reacting themselves to COVID issues. And so trying to pull together posts from community and searches, what are people asking for, what are they looking for? If we don't have it, reaching out and creating a new network of how we're going to create that and make that available to our clients.
Yes, that's really interesting. Is there an example of a type of information that is now needed that wasn't before?
Really everything to do with the Family First acts and everything that's being presented now. So from payroll to clients who we're really not using electronic functions like direct deposit or EFT, the vendors wanting to now automate in that way, to dealing with how are you handling payments and interest calculation, and what is the regulation, what's the right thing to do with your constituents, what is the government expecting you to do with your constituents. So there's depth in all areas of the way that our clients relate to their employees and their constituents.
Thank you. That is very interesting and makes total sense when you say it, but until you said it, we couldn't imagine what type of information, and if you tried to predict what kind of information you would need a few months ago, I'm guessing most of us wouldn't come up with that. So very interesting. Anyone else having an unusual new role or opportunity?
I can add, maybe some of us are being experts at COVID news, so like tracking the graphs and countries, curves, and
Yes.
Quarantine at home, wondering what will be your situation, and also teaching, in my case, teaching my mom how to transfer some WhatsApp messages and images, and that's on the personal side.
Great point. Yes, I think we've all been on the Zoom or GoToMeeting education sessions with our parents and family members. how to get a family call going where we can see each other and talk. Very interesting. Okay. I guess we've started, this is our new thing, is our workplace SWAT team and this webinar. So let's see. So one of the things I would love to engage with you on, and this is very important, and we're kind of getting towards the end of our session here. What this meeting and this session is really, as I said, it's for you. And we can decide whether to make this a one-time meetup or we can have monthly roundtables. We do have a program format that we use for monthly meetings and discussions on a topic. But it's up to you. If you would like, we can structure these so that on some of these specific topics that are pertinent to workplace and intranets, that we could go deeper into certain areas and go forward with that, but only if it's useful. And I'd be interested in knowing, if we did that, what kinds of topics would you like us to schedule?
I think analytics is always something that internal communicators are keen to talk about, and it's not always easy to get access to, or to get people to open the kimono, as it were, and talk about their company's engagement.
Mm-hmm. So comparisons and sort of benchmarking.
Yeah, benchmarking. Mm-hmm.
What types of things would you like to benchmark?
I think everybody's always trying to figure out what is considered good for internal content. What's a good, page views, engagement kind of number? What is considered good?
Got it. So kind of a volume or an engagement type of a comparison.
Yeah. What KPIs do people measure?
Thank you. What else?
You may be planning to cover this in the KCS roundtable that Coveo usually hosts. But one of the things that we obviously have needed to switch to, we're in the middle of our KCS program. So we have just switched today. It's our first remote coaches training today. And then wave 4 will be our first remote wave next week, and so on. So I'm wondering, Are there others who are doing the same kind of thing? They're in their implementation or onboarding either of Coveo or KCS, and how are they dealing with those changes?
That is a great point. I'm not sure if anybody else is doing an implementation right now, either of KCS or some other process where you were having some in-person meetings.
I'm just going to flesh out with a little bit of background in case any of the participants are new to KCS. It's an acronym for Knowledge Centered Services. The consortium has been around for about 25 years, I believe, Christine. And Christine is actually one of our fine KCS trainers. But it is about knowledge management best practices. And I think intuitively we do recognize that no matter how good the search engine is, no matter how great the machine learning is, it all starts with the content. Content is queen.
So true. So true. Actually, we are broadening our KCS implementation at Coveo right now. And right after this meeting, I'll be going to a meeting that is virtual about that effort. And we're planning to do our design session in the next month or so. And that is going to be a virtual session instead of what we would have, of course, done before, which was an in-person session. So we're going through some of the same things. Anyone else doing some things virtually? Or have topics that you would like to discuss in future roundtables?
I don't see anything in the chat or questions, and just a small reminder, people can also leave comments in the survey.
Good point. Okay, well, with that, back over to you, Vicki.
Thank you, Christine. So we would like to remind you that you can access Coveo Connect at all times, 24/7, wherever you are around the world. You can participate in a customer news group, ask questions on Coveo Connect. This is a community for you guys. You can also attend and do some training courses on Coveo Academy. And this week we have a new blog. I forgot who posted it from our team. If you ladies can remind me, but it's the distributed workforce, and it was interesting to read.
It was our CSM in the UK. I'd have to look up his name. It was very good. Loved
Andrew?
it. Not Andrew. It was not, sorry, it was not a CSM, it was a sales contact. We can certainly share a link when we send you the recording of this roundtable. How's that?
Yep. Then do you want to do the next slide, Christine, or do you want me to do it? Okay, I got it.
Go ahead.
Thank you. And we also have next week on Thursday, April 9th, our live webinar with our CTO, founder, and president, Laurent Simoneau. He'll be discussing meeting the digital demand with data and AI. So we have the link in this presentation, and it's also on our coveo.com page for you to register to attend this live webinar with our CTO. Next slide, please. Thank you. Coveo Impact Plus, it's our digital channel for experienced intelligence leaders. It will connect our community with powerful, meaningful content that enables our customers, prospects, and partners to come together for knowledge and information sharing, to learn from their peers and our community's collective expertise. This is where we'll be sharing all the great content that has typically been delivered at our in-person events. So we had to adapt to these times. Coveo.com Impact Plus is where you can join other experienced intelligence heroes.
Vicki?
Thank you, Christine. I wasn't sure if it was yours or mine. So we also, as discussed by Christine Nadeau, we have our KCS virtual practices training. We are experts in KCS virtual training, actually. It's not because of COVID that we've been doing these. So on April 13th to 15th, there's a virtual session, I think with Christine Egley, right? You are the trainer on this session? Good.
Oh, actually, that's Judy. That's Judy for this
Judy?
one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So with Judy Cardinal, another senior customer success manager. And you also have, we share with you the links of other training services that we have. Obviously, we'll adapt everything so it's more virtual than normally. And that's it for KCS.
Okay. Well, if anybody has questions, we are providing our email addresses here. I want to thank everyone for joining us and also participating. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you both,
Thank you.
Christine.
Bye-bye.
Just a
You're welcome.
couple of quick reminders. You'll receive the recording of today's presentation by email next week. And please remember to help us improve future roundtables by completing the brief survey that will pop up at the end of the roundtable. On behalf of both Christine's and the rest of the Coveo team, I'd like to thank you for attending our April Digital Workplace Roundtable. Have a happy Friday.
Thank you. Be safe and well, everyone.
Yes, be well.